So, welcome to this short practice that I have created to bring about some awareness around our breath and feeling this expansiveness of breath in the heart center, and that expands out throughout the rest of the body. And we'll integrate that with some movement through the abdomen. That is a little bit more pacifying, but I think the blend of these two is just the perfect companionship to either start your day or a midday practice where you just need some revitalization. So we're going to start our practice lying down. And one thing that pretty much is always part of my practices are a set of blocks, a folded blanket or one that you can fold, as well as a strap. Now, for this particular practice, I'm not sure if we'll need the strap, but have everything close by so that it's within hand's reach if I decide to go off in that direction. So I'm going to get you to lie down on your back to begin for this practice. And this practice will be around improving the inhalation and bringing the awareness into the upper breathing space, heart center, ribs, whatever you would like to call it. So initially, you could choose to have your legs straight or even have your knees bent. So it's up to you, really. It doesn't really make that much difference. So then as you settle in, you'll feel the weight of your body supported by the surface beneath you. Just allow that to feel safe in your body. And then as you settle in, just start to follow the natural rhythm of your breath. And then awareness of the sensation of your physical body. So all of your skin and the touch of air that connects with the skin on your body. Okay, so then back to the breath, which is more internal. And then there's your physical body and your skin touching the space around you. And that goes even beyond the space that you're in. So more outward to this sort of dome around you, but then beyond that dome, the outer world and the expansiveness of that. And then in that expansiveness that the sensation that you're feeling, start to now maybe even bring your hands to the ribs and start to breathe. So now you're narrowing in the scope again. So as you breathe in and out, your hands are on the lower part of the ribs. Feel that sensation of the self or the breath. Breath is life. And you may even, for the next 3 breaths, feel that sensation that you're breathing into the lower ribs, but there's this expansiveness into the abdomen. And then as you breathe out, the navel is pressing gently to your internal organs. Okay, so now lower your arms to the floor. Take another expansive breath. And then go back to your involuntary breathing. Okay, so you should be more internalized now as you bend your knees and place your feet onto the floor. And in fact, let's draw our knees in toward us and just bring our hands to the shin. And then, like a spring, just let the legs go and bring the feet to the floor just as they land and the arms come down beside the hips. And then, even before we move into the next movement, let's bring our awareness to the bottoms of our feet. And as you allowed your feet just to come and land, notice how they landed. So for me, I feel a little bit more sensation in the bottom of my right foot, especially the center of the heel and the base of the baby toe, but a little bit less in the ball of the foot. And the left foot feels a little bit more even. So what is it for you on the bottoms of your feet? Okay, and you can readjust them just a little bit if you like. What I'd like us to move into now is move up into bridge. So elevate your hips up as you're sweeping the arms to the space above your head, and then exhale down. So we're going to repeat that. Reposition your feet if you need to. Breathe up into bridge. Exhale to come down. Okay, and then what I'd like us to do now is increase on our inhalation. And another thing to consider here is as you elevate the hips up, you might notice as the hips come up that the glutes respond to the hips coming up. So it's not that you activate the glutes to bring the hips up. It's actually that the hips come up and the glutes respond to it. So let's just do one more without the counting so that you can kind of move into that I just spoke about, that as you bring the hips up, the glutes fire. Now we're going to increase our breath. So we're going to breathe in to a 5 count inhale. You exhale to come out, bringing the hips back down. We'll do it 3 more times. 6 count inhale. And then lead yourself through 2 more of these movements, one with a 7 count inhale and one with an 8 count inhale. And as you're going through this process of increasing your inhalations, notice how the movement becomes perhaps more purposeful, or there's actually a little bit more awareness of how the body is moving and how the body is breathing and how those two things harmonize together. Okay, and then after that 8 count inhale, let's lower the hips back down and pause. Just take a little pause. Notice if your feet are where you want them to be and reposition a little bit if you need to, still with the knees bent. And now what we're going to do is we're going to start to work with a little bit of leg movement as it moves in the socket of the pelvis. So I'm going to extend my right leg up. Now I don't want to lock the knee, but I'm just going to rotate my leg bone in the pelvis to internal and external rotation. And you'll notice if you're looking toward the video that the movement of my foot moving from pointing in to out is a result of my leg moving and not the foot moving the leg. Okay, so when we've completed 8 or 10 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 or And then extend the opposite leg up, which is the left one for me, and then do the same. And what I'd like you to really discover is all about the movement of your body parts. So right now, the focal point is the top of the leg bone as it inserts into the socket of the pelvis, and you have internal, external rotation of the leg bone in the hip socket. So really connect with the deeper level, the bones of the body, not necessarily the muscle and the fascia and the tissue. Just go to a deeper level of the bones moving or the joints moving. All right, and then we'll bring that foot down. Now, what I'd like us to do is bring the right leg back up again. Move the leg bone into external rotation, and then place your right foot on the left leg. Now, I don't want you to reach up and pull the leg down. Just move the leg bone into external rotation and place the foot on the left leg. And then you can position your arms in line with the shoulders or maybe a little bit closer down toward the hips. I just wouldn't put them above the height of the shoulders. And now we're just going to drop the knees over toward the right, keeping the shoulder girdle on the floor, so that what we're creating here and what we're experiencing and observing is the movement of our hips, moving from one side to the other. We'll do 3 to each side. So this is your hip movement relative to your ribs. And we have a lot of muscle and fascia and tissue that connects those two, ribs and hips. And this particular movement of moving the hips relative to the ribs is actually quite freeing of some of that muscle and fascia and tissue if there's some adhesions or some tightness. Okay, so now let's bring the left leg up and move that leg into external rotation and put the left foot on the right leg, just above the knee. And then you're going to do 3 of these hip movements to each side. So the other thing that's really nice about this is as the knees drop from one side to the other, there's actually a little bit of softening and a bit of a massage on the sacrum. It feels quite nice. As you're moving through this, just allow the breath to be soft. Noticing if there's any clenching of the jaw, and if there is, just even through that little bit of awareness that you can soften your body. And then once you've done 3 to each side, we're going to bring that foot back down. And we're going to draw the knees in toward us again, one hand on either shin. And then keep your knees in toward you. Now, bring your arms out in line with the shoulders again. And now we're going to just move into a little bit of twisting at the navel. So with my knees together, I'm going to drop the legs a little bit more toward the left. Let's call it the armpit. And then over to the other side. So slightly different to what we did. I want my awareness or focal point to be at the navel center. And then as you're dropping the knees to the side, your obliques actually activate and become responsive to gravity. And so it's that musculature that comes online so that the knees don't drop all the way to the floor. Great. And then back to the center, drop the feet to the floor. And then from here, we're going to roll to our side and we'll come up to all fours. All right, so I'm just going to line my arms up underneath the shoulders and my knees underneath the hips. From here, we're going to do a movement called Chakravasana. If you've practiced with me before, you'll be very familiar with it. We're going to inhale, gently lift the chin, expand and open the heart. As you go back into child's, tuck the chin in, bend the elbows to go back, sit bones to the heels. This is all on the exhale. And then come up as you breathe in again. Gently lift the chin. And then tuck the chin and go back with the navel, gently compressing the organs. Two more of those, please. Remember, breath harmonizes with movement. Movement harmonizes with breath. Now we're going to come up back to the all fours, same kind of movement, gently lifting the chin. And now on your exhale, you're going to curl the toes into the floor and move yourself into downward face dog. Then we'll come back to the knees, breathe in. You can keep the toes curled into the floor. Maybe even the shoulder blades glide around the ribs, drawing toward each other. And then on the exhale, we're going to move into your down dog again. Now you're moving your shoulder sockets on the arm bones. Go back into your downward dog and stay for a full inhale, exhale, a full breath. And then we'll come back down to all fours. Inhale. And just to get a little bit of relief on the shoulder blades, let's go back into child's pose again. Just to relieve through the shoulders. And now you'll come up and you'll exhale into your down dog, and we'll stay this time for 2 full breaths. Now, as you're breathing in, feel the breath move into the chest or the heart center. As you're exhaling, maybe you feel the movement of the navel gently compressing the organs, and maybe there's a little bit of elevation from the pelvic floor up. And then after that second exhalation, move back down into your all fours, and then sit back on your heels again. So now we're going to move into that one more time, and we'll stay this time in our downward face dog for 3 breaths. Maybe you're activating your inner thighs back, elevating your sit bones high, and feeling this space throughout the vertebrae. And as you're exhaling, there's that movement of the navel moving to the back body, as well as maybe there's a little bit of activation of the pelvic floor coming up. And then come down again to the all fours. And we'll go back into sit bones to the heels. And then sit up. And then we'll come up to standing. I find that's one of the easiest ways to get up to standing without interrupting our flow too much. So from here now in standing, we're going to move back to the breath around the heart center. So we'll breathe the arms up and down. And we're going to do that 2 more times. So you're just feeling the breath as you breathe in and the arms are moving. We're getting the arms out of the way so we have more access into the upper breathing space, into the rib cage, into the lungs. And maybe at that fullest inhalation, the top of that inhalation, there's a slight pause in the breath. All right. And then from here, we're going to continue this movement of arms going overhead and bringing this breath into the chest. We're going to do it now from warrior one. And we're going to increase the count of the inhalations. So from the top of your mat in the mountain pose, we're going to extend the right leg back. And as that leg goes back, it might even move into a little bit of external rotation. So if I'm looking toward the screen, my leg goes back into extension, a little bit of external rotation. My hips stay level. Okay, and then from here, we're going to inhale, sweep the arms like we did in just what we were doing, and that standing arm raises, and then come out of the pose as you exhale. Now we're going to do a 5-count inhale. Increase your inhalation to 6. Now you do 7 and 8. Now I'm going to do a side glance of this because as you're moving into it, your chest is a little bit more forward of the hips. And now on this one, the full 8-count inhale, 8-count inhale, exhale, stay. Now, if you need to soften a little bit through the shoulders, bend the elbows, feel the movement of bending the elbows, releasing a little bit of tension around the scapulas that are gliding or sitting nicely on the rib cage. Let's take another breath here. And then we're going to inhale and straighten the leg and release the arms down. And then let's gather the feet back into mountain pose where we'll just take a little glimpse in to notice any shifts in our physical being, our mental stability. How is this feeling? Energetically, how does it feel? Okay, and then we're going to do the other side. So from here, we're going to have the right foot forward. I'm going to step my left leg back into extension, a little bit of external rotation. And then from here, just the first one or two are just kind of like free movement. We just move as we bend the knee, the arms come up, maybe the chest a little bit more forward of the hips. Exhale out. And now let's move into that 5-count inhale. I'm teaching this at 4:15 in the afternoon, and it's starting to get a little bit dark. I might have to add some light here soon. And that was your 6 count. So now we need a 7 and an 8-count inhale. And just notice as you're doing movement with breath, that harmonizing, that it's so intentional. It's almost meditative as you move in and out of these poses. Exhale, stay on that 8-count inhale. And then decide if you'd like to bring your chin up gently toward the ceiling, if it's more comfortable to keep the gaze forward. Notice what's happening in your shoulder blades. Soften them out, bend the elbows if you need to. And just stand here like a warrior with courage and stability and strength. Inhale, exhale. Now we're going to inhale, straighten the leg, and exhale the arms down. And then from here, we're going to stand ourselves back into mountain pose. I'm going to put a light on. And again, just come in and just internalize momentarily. Just notice what you're feeling internally, physical body, energetic body. Okay, so from here, just stand your feet a little bit like hip distance apart. We're going to inhale, sink the hips, come into chair pose. Exhale, forward fold. So you're dropping your tummy or your torso onto your thighs. And now we're going to lean back into the chair pose. Inhale, exhale, sink the hips, and stay for a breath. Breathe all the way up, inhale, and exhale the arms down. I'm going to go through that again. So we're going to breathe the arms up, sink the hips. Exhale, stay. Breathe in, and then on your next exhale, lower the torso to the thighs, dropping your head forward, touching the fingertips to the floor, and then go lean back into your chair pose. Exhale, stay. It's a bit of a challenge. Legs are really getting a workout here. Breathe the legs up, straighten in the legs, and release the arms down. You can reposition your feet if you'd like to, and bring that awareness back to the heart center. That big, bold breath into the heart, to the lungs. Feel the expansion of the ribs. And then step wide on the mat. From here, I'd like you to just kind of bring your arms back into extension. As that happens, bring your hands to the upper part of the legs. So we'll take a breath in here, and now we're going to take an exhalation and coming into a wide leg forward fold. And as we're doing this, we're bringing the navel toward the back body. Just a gentle compression of the organs. And then from here, I'll side view again. From here, we're going to come up to a halfway, a long, nice long spine, lots of space between the vertebrae. And then we're going to fold out over the legs again with that exhalation. And then from here, we're going to come all the way back up. Remember that those shoulder blades kind of glide around your rib cage and bring you up. Gives you a nice long straight back. So again, my arms go into this extension. I'm going to grab just underneath the buttocks where the legs start. On my exhale, I'm forward folding, tracing my hands down the backs of the legs. Nice flat back to bring me all the way down. And then I'm coming up to a halfway point with a nice elongated back. My head is just an extension out of my spine. And now I'm going to exhale and tuck that navel in again toward the back body. Just a gentle compression of your organs. And then take an extra breath in your forward fold. And now we're going to come all the way back up. Sweeping the arms all the way overhead. Bringing the hands together, with the palms coming together. And then on the exhale, just bring your hands down through the midline of the body into Anjali Mudra. And as you do that, tuck your chin in, bowing to your heart. From here, we're going to go wide, from the wide stance again. We're going to forward fold 2/3 of the breath. On that last third of the breath, you're going to take a twist to your right side. And then come back up. And then we're going to go to the left. So remember, it's 2/3 of the breath down. Last third brings you into the twist. And then might I remind you that as we move into the twist, let's exhale the arms down, that we want to keep our hips level. And it's the rotation of the ribs as the hips stay level or stable. So let's keep that in mind as we move through these next two twists. So you're going to forward fold first. That last 1/3 of the breath, you move into the twist. So remember, your hips are level, and it's just this rotation of the ribs as the hips stay level. Breathe in, come up, and we're going to go one more time to the left. And now we're going to go back to side one. Inhale, forward fold, 2/3 of the breath, last 1/3 into the twist, and let the right hand come and rest on the sacrum. Now, what I would recommend is having the top of the hand on the sacrum. And your left hand now can be in the center or right over by the foot. And we'll create a little bit of length through the spine, through the vertebrae. And now we're going to exhale and just rotate. So now you're thinking about the navel, compressing gently to the internal organs. 1, 2, or 3 breaths in the static part of the pose. And then you can go back to the center, come all the way up, and then we'll do side left. So we're going to forward fold, and then part way, about 2/3 of the way down, we're going to go into the twist. So either bringing the hand to the center, or you can go a little bit closer toward the foot. Top of the left hand on the back. Now remember, we're keeping the hips nice and level. And it's now just we're moving the ribs, the navel's doing a little bit of movement here. So we're creating a little bit of energy around the navel, around that Agni and fire. And then maybe you can just retract that left shoulder blade back a little bit. Maybe there's a little bit of an opportunity to get a little bit more of that twist. Stimulating digestive fire. And then when you're ready, let's go back to that point in the center, right? And then lift up to that halfway point again. Maybe your hands come onto the shins. Head's just an extension out of the spine. Forward fold all the way. And take an extra 2 breaths here. All right, so now let's just bring the hands to the backs of the legs again with a nice flat back. Lead with the ribs, come all the way back up. And then we'll bring our feet back in at hip distance apart. Take a breath in, sweep the arms up, maybe even gentle lift of your chin. Feel that full breath in. And then as you exhale, so you've brought that vibrancy and energy into the body by bringing the hands down through the heart center. And so sort of planting this really, really good energy into the body. All right, so from here, we're going to go back down onto our mats. Knees are bent. Feet are at hip distance apart. Pause there momentarily and notice any shifts in the body. Notice physically, mentally, energetically how you are feeling. How are you doing? All right, so what I'd like us to do now is keep the arms on the floor, and we're going to go back into bridge pose. So you're going to elevate the hips up. So there's that expansiveness through the chest. Maybe if there's a little wiggle room to move onto the outer edges of your arms. And then what I'd like us to do now is breathe in 6 counts. And at the top of that 6 count inhale, pause 2 counts with your breath awareness, with the awareness in the heart center. Exhale out and do that 2 more times. So just with a 6 count inhale, fill the lungs, expand the heart, pause the breath for 2 counts, and seed or plant your awareness into the heart center in that pause in the breath. And then exhale, and then you can just work off those upper arms if you kind of tuck them under and lower the hips down. Great. And then from here, Let's just bring our knees in toward us. And what I'd like us to do is a little bit of Uppanasana. So we're just going to pull the knees away, straighten in the elbows, and then exhale and draw your knees in toward you. So it's going to bring the thighs in toward your belly. So maybe even keep your knees together. So pulling the knees in toward you. And because they're together and they're coming in toward your belly, it's kind of pushing that in again to your organs. So just gently pulling them in on the exhale. And then we're going to pull them away as we breathe in. And now this next one, we're going to keep the left leg away and just pull the right leg in. And then breathe both knees away. And then this next one, just pull the left knee in. Inhale both knees away. And then exhale both knees in. Great. So now lower your feet to the floor. And then notice how your feet have landed again. Become aware of those points at the bottoms of your feet. They're actually more in contact with the floor. And maybe you might even feel that you would like to even that out. And if that's the case, bring your awareness to the center of your heel, the ball of the foot, and the base of the baby toe. And then from here, knees are bent. We're just going to softly move the legs out to the side. So dropping the knees toward the side and then bringing them back together again. And just go small. Don't have this is the intention that the knees have to drop all the way to the floor. In fact, do a smaller version of that. And as you're doing that, just bring the awareness back to the leg bones as they feed into the pelvis, into the sockets of the pelvis. All right. So then the next time the knees come back up, just drop the right knee out to the side and then bring it back up. And then the left knee out or the left leg out to the side and back up. So instead of doing them both at the same time, now just one leg at the same time. And then a couple more, both legs at the same time. And again, in that smaller range. Now it's a smaller range, but you could make the movement a little bit faster, perhaps. But again, what I would like mostly is that we're really with our awareness at those leg bones as they move in the sockets of our pelvis. Great. So from here, we'll just keep our knees bent for a moment. And I'd just like to bring us back into the regular rhythm of our breath. So again, if you want to place your hands on the lower part of the ribs. And then do a little bit of intentional breathing. So you're going to have your hands on the bottom, lower part of the ribs. Breathe into the ribs. But you'll also notice that there's an expansiveness of your belly. As you breathe in, it expands. And it expands, but it also, there's that expansiveness that kind of comes up into the ribs, spreads the ribs out to the side, moves the ribs out to the front. A little bit of less movement at the back because we're lying on the floor. Okay, and then relax the arms down to the floor. Extend the legs out straight. And then we're just going to bring the legs together and push into the heels of your feet. Rest the arms down on the floor on the mat by your hips. And then on your next breath in, we're going to inhale, sweep the arms overhead. And then we're going to exhale and bring the arms back down by the hips. And then we're going to pull in that increase of inhale. So we've got a 5 count inhale as we sweep the arms. Now, if the arms don't touch the floor above your head, that's fine. Now we'll go into a 6 count inhale. Now, the beauty of this work is, we're going to go 7 and 8 count now, is that as you go into your 7 count inhale, you're expanding the breath. You're feeling this breath move into the ribs, into the lungs, into the heart center. As you exhale, you can actually bring the abdomen to gently compress on the organs, and maybe there's a slight elevation of the pelvic floor lifting up. Let's go to that 8 count inhale with the compression on the exhale. And then maybe you'd like to, one more time on this final one, take whichever count you want. If 8 count is too much, drop it down to a 7 or a 6. And then when your arms are overhead, just take 1 or 2 or 3 breaths. Maybe even introduce in that little bit of a pause in the breath at the top of the inhale. Okay, and then when you've completed, then on the exhale, relax your arms back down by the hips, and then reposition your legs so that it's comfortable for about a 2-minute relaxation. Integration. So then as you now settle in to our relaxation pose, our Shavasana, bring the awareness to the space between the eyebrow center. You could even bring your hand up and just lightly touch that space just to get that sensation there. Soften at the eyes, soften your jaw. And as you breathe in, follow the breath through the 2 nostrils, that cool kind of dry sensation of the breath moving up the nostrils to that space at the eyebrow center. And then as you breathe back out, there's a softer sort of exhalation. And then we move back into the inhale where it's kind of a cooler sensation. And you have breath through the left nostril, breath through the right. And then it becomes one as it hits that point between the eyebrows. And then as you continue for the next minute with this technique, maybe you'll start to feel that sensation that there's a little bit of maybe energy pulling that breath a little bit further into the midbrain and then pushing it back out and down through the nostrils. Or maybe there's that little bit of light that's actually on the breath. It's the same movement. And then as you activate a little bit more sensation around the intuitive space between the eyebrow center, maybe just place your right hand on your heart. There's a direct connection between the head or the mind and the heart and the mind. So now you have the two sensations, the sensation of that space between the eyebrow center and the sensation at the heart center where you have your hand resting. So you feel the head or the mind, you feel the heart, and then you feel them acting as one. And lower the hand back down if you like. And for the next minute or so, just be with the mind, with the heart, or with them blending as one. All right. And then gently come back to your breath. If you felt like you wanted to stay in relaxation a little bit longer, maybe just reach over and pause the recording and stay a little bit longer. And if you're ready to immerse yourself back into your day, then start to make some movement into your fingers, into your toes. Take some breath in again and maybe just notice what else it is that you need to bring yourself back. And then when you feel ready, we'll bend the knees and roll over to our side. Take a breath or two on whatever side you roll to. And then when you feel ready, come back up to seated. And then when you're ready, bring the hands together at the heart. Can lower the chin, eyes can be open or closed. In me, there is a light that lights the whole world. It radiates truth, boundless will, action, and knowledge. Namaste. Thank you for practicing with me today, and we'll see you at our next practice.